Hello.
Hi, how are you?
I am great. How are you?
Good, thanks.
Oh, I should clearly turn my phone off.
Okay,
10:05.
great.
Hey, Quantrella. Hey, Christine. You even got the Zoom background, Quantrella. You beat us all. Awesome.
There a delay? Just trying to make sure I'm doing some weird techie things.
Oh, is there a delay?
Yeah, I'm just looking at like my head moving and it showing up on the screen, just making sure.
Yeah, yours is a little like I can hear you all right, but it's a little yeah, moving kind of jarring, right? But I can hear you clearly.
How long are we going to be in the breakout rooms today, Marianne?
15 minutes. Yeah. That's the plan. We're getting our whole great group together. Yay.
Have you guys done this workshop before?
No, no. This is the first. We have another kind of similar one planned that's being hosted through UBC. So this is definitely work in progress. It's like truly a workshop. Like we're coming with an idea, but that's it, just to have discussion. So we'll see.
No, I think that's perfect. I think that especially with the virtual environment, it's actually rare to be able to interact.
Yeah,
Which
exactly.
sounds really silly, but it's true. Like I think that throughout this conference, I've really been able to hear from great speakers. But this is the first workshop I've been able to attend, and so I'm looking forward to actually hearing from people, talking to people, real live
Yeah,
humans.
exactly. Totally. That's the hope. So, but it's a little bit different than, like you say, a lot of the sessions I've attended. So there's also the risk always, but I think it'll be worthwhile.
What's the worst that can happen?
Right? Yes, exactly.
Yeah, this is the friendliest group, I think, in my experience as well.
Yeah,
The audiences here, the people that come to these are usually just the
totally.
best. Aren't we just the best?
No, totally. And actually, some of the sessions I attended yesterday, this even same topic started to come out of. And so I was like messaging, I was like, you should come. Like, that's great. Like, there's so much overlap. So I think, yeah, I think it's a great place to start. Let me see who we're still missing. We have almost everyone. I know Camille is probably going to be late. She's coming in part way, so hopefully she'll make it in time for the breakout part. But she's with you, Maggie. But she has something else before, so she said she'd probably be 15 minutes late, so she should be in time for the breakout. But just so that you are aware.
And you have moderators for each of the breakout rooms?
Yeah, we have a moderator and a note taker for each of the breakout rooms. Yes, we do. Assuming all goes well. So far, we're pretty good. We've got almost everyone. And I think we have pretty much all the moderators, maybe minus one. And if for any reason your group doesn't have a note taker, don't worry. Like the notes are a bonus, I think, if we get them. But the discussion is the key. And we have the feedback session.
Yeah, if you need to use me, I can be a note taker for one of these as well.
Awesome, thanks. Great.
Just give it one more minute to let people arrive.
And I think we have all of our team here, so
Excellent.
it's so prompt.
Excellent. But I think we will start right on time just to give us enough, just as much discussion room as possible. What happened to our elevator music?
Want me to sing some, Amber?
Oh, look at that. It's time to start. Welcome, everyone, to Fostering Diversity of Partners in Perinatal Patient-Oriented Research. I'm very delighted to have everyone join us. I know people will still be flickering into their rooms, but we do want to give as much time for interaction as possible. This is going to be a workshop where we really want to hear from you, and we have some great folks that are going to help facilitate that. My name is Amber Huey. I am a knowledge translation specialist on the unceded traditional territories of the Penelakut, Lamotcham, Hutsun First Nations people, as well as other Hokan peoples. I'm also 36 weeks pregnant, so I'm really excited to be in this particular room with these faces. So without further ado, I'm going to throw to Marianne Vidler, who will be taking you through today's workshop.
Great. Thank you so much, Amber. Let me get my screen going, which I kind of don't want to do because I see so many faces and so many people I recognize, and it's so lovely. Some I didn't even know were going to be joining. Great. So thank you very much. I'm Marianne Vidler. I'm here on behalf of a large and fabulous team, which I will introduce shortly. And we're going to be talking about fostering diversity of partners in patient-oriented research in the perinatal period. And let me see if I can move this along. There we go. I want to start with a land acknowledgement of where I'm joining you from today, which is the Musqueam, the Squamish, and the Tsleil-Waututh Nations. I also invite you to look at the lands on which you are joining us from. And I want to give thanks to them for letting us be here and welcoming us here today. I want to say that this session will be recorded, and we're hoping to use this to further kind of our project and strategies and next steps. With that in mind, I would love to have your cameras on and know your names, but feel free to turn your camera off or use a pseudonym if you would not like your identity to be known. So a little bit about the broader project before we really get into the discussion and our breakout rooms. The problem, which I think probably needs no explanation to this group because we're all here, but the problem that our team has come across, as many others, is that patient partners in patient-oriented research projects often do not and have not reflected the diversity of the communities that they come from. And this is in a variety of ways, not limited to those that are listed here, such as education, income, race, and ethnicity. And of course, this has all kinds of knock-on effects of the projects that are chosen, the evidence that's produced, and how it's implemented, not being applicable or reflective of the communities that we all hope to serve and benefit. So that's the problem. The objective of our broader project is to identify why that might be. So what are some of the barriers to that greater diversity? And hopefully even have some solutions, some suggestions, some strategies. That's kind of in brackets and in a lighter color because I don't want to overstate what we're going to be able to do as a group. We're not going to obviously be able to change huge systems, and this is obviously largely rooted in prejudice and in discrimination and exclusion, and it's important to acknowledge all that and to work towards changing, but also recognize the scope of what we're going to be able to accomplish. So we at least want to be able to identify some of these barriers, provide some possible solutions and suggestions to greater diversity and inclusion in patient partners in research related to pregnancy, childbirth, and the postpartum period. And that's what brings our group together, is either a personal interest, academic, clinical, in the perinatal period. But I think for those of you who might be joining from other health areas, I think much of these principles also apply. So everyone is certainly welcome in this discussion. So some of the methods that we're planning to undertake to try and identify these barriers is we're doing an online survey, which Justine, who I'll hand it over to for the second half, is going to talk or mention and share the QR code for. We're hosting some virtual events. This is the first, so bear with us, workshop, and then also a UBC Health hosted dialogue session where we'll have kind of a similar discussion with maybe a slightly different audience. And then we're also going to do some focus groups and interviews to get dive a bit deeper into the topic and get some perspectives. And as I mentioned, the ultimate output is to identify the barriers and some hopeful strategies. So before we move into our breakout rooms, we wanted to put a couple of audience polls out, just so we could get a better understanding of who's joining us today, and kind of what the audience is like. So Lauren, if you could help us launch the first poll, and I'm not sure if it'll be launched for me. So, oh yeah, it is too. Okay, great. So if you could, are they all here? I think this is number 3. Is it possible to send out the first one? There we go. Perfect. So if you could select what role best describes you, recognizing many of us occupy multiple spaces, just so we can get a bit of a sense of who's with us, from what perspective. Great. Great. I think, Lauren, is it possible to share the results of that? I'm not sure if I'm seeing the same thing as everyone else here now. Can you guys see the results? Not yet. Yes? Yes, okay. So that's great. I think it looks like we have a bit, at least some spread across the various kind of categories that we provided. So lots of researchers, surprisingly not so many clinicians, which is kind of interesting. Lots of trainees, community members, none that have identified as educators. Excellent. Lauren, can we go to the next poll? Great. Great. So I'm not sure if we can share those results and then launch into the next one. That's super interesting that we have like an almost completely even split between participants who have been involved in patient-oriented research in the perinatal period and not. I'll be curious to maybe ask in the breakout rooms too if that means they've been involved in other research in the perinatal period, maybe not patient-oriented, or patient-oriented in other groups. So maybe we can go to the last question, the last poll question. Perfect. So what we're hoping here is if you can identify which groups from your perspective are regularly underrepresented in research in the pregnancy or postpartum period, recognizing, of course, these don't capture all groups, and many individuals are intersecting in multiple groups. We are also a little limited with Zoom as to the number of options we can have, so forgive us for that. Give people a minute. Great. Maybe we can share those back, Lauren, as well. I mean, interesting to me, not too surprising, very high numbers in every category, but but a little bit of variation as well. Some groups definitely seeming to have more have identified as being underrepresented than others. So that's super interesting. And these reflect some of the groups that we're going to talk about or break out into next and talk about a little further. So thank you very much for that and for filling those in. That's helpful. Now I just want to take a quick minute to mention our team, our fabulous team that we have with us. I'm not going to read everyone's bios and backgrounds, but at least I think most of you have your videos on as well. And you can see we have a great group of researchers, clinicians, patient partners, students that are going to be supporting us today with the breakout rooms, our second group that can't even all fit on one slide, as well as a group of students who are going to be helping us do some note taking that I wanted to acknowledge and thank for their support as well. So thank you very much to everyone here. The next thing we're going to do is get into some breakout groups. I'll briefly go over the different groups that we have and some of our key discussion questions that we're hoping to address. But this really is meant to be an interactive workshop where we can brainstorm and hear from others in the field to take this project forward. So I'd be very happy if we didn't get through our discussion questions and we had a good discussion in each of these groups. So these are definitely meant to be a guide. So we will put you into groups for about 15 minutes. This is how we have grouped them. Again, we are a little limited by number of facilitators, number of groups, number of participants. So we recognize these are not perfect categories, but something just to guide the discussion a little bit. And what we'd be really interested in learning is if there are different barriers and also maybe different strategies in accessing, recruiting, engaging with patients and patient partners from these groups, and specifically in pregnancy and postpartum. So many of those I think certainly are going to overlap, but there also may be unique challenges and strategies that we need to consider. So these are the three guiding discussions or questions, and no need to remember these. Each of the facilitators have these on hand. So what we're hoping to talk about are what are some of the best methods for recruitment and engagement of patient partners from this particular group. So is it digital? Is it print? Is it in person? Is there a particular type of digital method, for example? What are challenges faced in recruitment and engagement of patient partners from this group? So is it about time? Is it about trust? What might some of those be? And are any of those particularly unique to this group? And then also any strategies, and those might be strategies that are brainstormed within the breakout groups, also ones that you may have used either as a patient representative or researcher to improve recruitment and engagement of representatives from these populations. So that's what I'm hoping we'll have to guide us. And next, I think Lauren is going to help us by shooting us each into breakout groups. And we may combine a couple of those just to make sure we have enough people to have a rich discussion. So if you get shuffled around, that would be why. So if you could help us do that, Lauren, that would be great. Ember, yeah?
Yeah, Marian, I think we have a question. We're missing two facilitators. What do you think the best route forward would be? I'm happy to pinch one.
No, I think that's fine. They're both there as like additional. So there's already someone also in that group.
Okay, so
no need to worry about it. But I do think that probably, and maybe the best way to do it is just combine, I don't know, Lauren, how easy this is for you, but like groups 1 and 2 together, 3 and 4 together, 5 and 6 together, and then maybe 7, 8, 9, just so we have enough people to have a rich discussion, kind of doubling up.
Okay, so we're going down to 6 breakout rooms instead?
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay, cool. Just give me 1 sec.
And we have
That
15
means-
minutes in the room.
Yeah, and then 15 minutes in the room. Yeah. So you'll have probably a couple of, now you're going to have 1 or 2 or maybe even 3 populations that will want to discuss in that group. But if you only get to 1 of them, that's also fine. Great. And I'll stop sharing.
Sorry, just to clarify. So groups 7, 8, and 9 are going to be
Yeah.
1, and then what was the other 2 that was combined?
1 and 2 you can put together, 3
Okay,
and 4 together, and 5 and 6 together.
Okay, awesome. So I'm just going to open up the rooms and then I'll put people appropriately. You might not be in the right room, but I will get you to the right room.
Perfect. No worries.
I guess we were the first ones to come back.
Yeah, it's about 10 more seconds before everyone's kicked out of the room.
Hi, everyone. Thank you so much for participating in those groups. I know it was a little bit of a jumping for around for a few people, but I hope you all had great conversations. So my name is Justine Dahl, and I'm a postdoctoral fellow at St. Michael's Hospital in Toronto. I'm going to kind of wrap up the end of this session. And so one of the things that we'd first like to talk about is to have somebody, whether it's whether it's a specific assigned note taker or anyone really in the presentation, would just like to share about some of the main findings from the discussion in your group. And so there's no need to repeat something if someone else already said it, but just anything kind of unique. So we'll just spend a few minutes on the first question about what kind of jumped out to you about what methods are best for recruiting patient partners of diverse populations. And I'll also specifically invite the note takers to jump in as well. Can I have the note taker from group 1?
Yeah, I was actually just about to jump in. My name's Angelia Ostrom, and I am an undergraduate student of the Faculty of Management at UBCO, and I'm working on my capstone project involving postpartum women in rural places. So one of the main things that I wrote down is that a lot of Facebook groups were a good area to recruit women and just individuals in rural places. But one of the barriers that was discussed was maybe the Wi-Fi isn't consistent or the internet connection isn't strong in those rural places. And then another good example that how we could recruit them would be community town meetings. And then being able to actually travel to the participant and be able to go to them and provide that little extra support to them so they don't have to travel anywhere. And then, but the barriers where that go would be that they have to build that relationship and that trust for us to be able to support them that way. So, yeah.
Great, thank you. And then can I have the note taker from group 3 and 4?
That was our group, right, Justine?
Yes, yeah.
Yeah. So my name's Summer. I'm a medical student at UBC. And one of the main themes that we talked about in our group, which was focused on patient partners with disabilities across the spectrum, those with addictions and substance use disorders, as well as mental health disorders. A main theme that we talked about was the time constraints that many of these individuals face throughout various time points in their diagnosis and day-to-day lives. So understanding the whole family as a system and figuring out what is the best time to ask individuals to participate in research and meeting people where they're at. And that means physically as well. So recruiting at locations where people already go to. So instead of adding a new thing they have to attend, adding value to things they were already going to is a great way to mitigate some of these challenges, as well as using general language for the general population, and for those who don't speak English as a first language can help with some of these challenges that come with research.
Perfect. And group 5 and 6?
Hi, my name is Maggie Rukinshella, and our group was discussing how best to reach homeless, incarcerated, and low-income participants. One thing that we really discussed was working, the importance of working through kind of community organizations or different outreach groups that are already working with these populations, because we might not know the logistical, might not even be able to imagine some of the logistical barriers for participants to reach us, and also to have that kind of in-person contact with them. But we did kind of discuss that there might be some ethical concerns around this, like the ethics of reaching out through the groups that they're already interacting with, as well as we talked about how like some of the strategies of being in person and being flexible and maybe having some monetary incentives would help facilitate their participation. But then again, there could be some of the ethical considerations around incentives. And I also just wanted to open it up to Camille if there was anything else I may have missed.
Hi, so I'm Camille Bure. I actually joined in late, sorry about that. But from what I caught, yes, you've covered it all, that in person for sure, and having that face-to-face connection. It's not about technology, it's about developing those connections. And then with Fred's keynote talk yesterday, also just that $50 was so important for him to show up. He didn't know what he was coming to, but he just knew he needed the money. So, but then look what that resulted in, and where he is, 5 years down the road. So it was a great incentive for him anyways at that point.
Awesome, thank you. And then group 6.
Hi, my name is Diva. I'm also in the capstone group with Ange. And we discussed, we were focused on low income. And something that we talked about was developing stronger partnerships within the community through their healthcare or primary care centers, and also just maybe nonprofits that are around the area, because they're already accessing these kinds of resources. And then through there, we can help to build trust and rapport, because they're already familiar with these centers. And then we also talked about using digital technology to reach out, but on a global scale, and potentially using different apps to communicate with different individuals in various countries. Something we talked about was Southeast Asia specifically. That was quite interesting. So yeah.
Awesome, thanks. And then if there's anything that hasn't been touched on from group 7, 8, and 9.
Yeah, I can go for this. Just quick introduction. Hi, I'm Jessica. I'm a first-year pharmacy student. We had quite a rich of a discussion, so my apologies if I'm not mentioning all of them. I think one of the biggest one that we were talking about is as like a, how do I say this, like a good method would be finding point individuals who researchers and other individuals are already approaching to kind of see what type of diverse groups of individuals that we can like call for in our research. So we were talking about Indigenous individuals, so finding, let's say, those community leaders that already has those connections as well. And we're always also talking about using texting instead of phoning, like for some parents especially, they're very busy. So texting apparently had more engagement. So that was another kind of method that we also touched upon as well.
Awesome, thank you. And so we touched on challenges a little bit briefly through that last discussion. I'm just going to open it up for about a minute or two if anyone has challenges that weren't mentioned, and you can kind of go in any order of any of the note takers if they want to jump in, and then I just want to save a few minutes for strategies at the end.
I can jump in here. I'm Shakria. I'm also a medical student at UBC. So I think, so we were talking about rural and remote communities as well as ethno-racial groups. So one of the main challenges that hasn't been said yet, I think everybody had really great things that came up before. One of them was negative experiences with healthcare professionals and research. So depending on what their experience has been in other countries or what their experience has been within our own system, just because rural and remote communities do have less access, there is a lot of trust building that needs to be done because of those restrictions that come up. And as well, if they're from a different cultural group, what was brought up in our group was that there might not be a lot of understanding of what research is like in this country. And then as well as there might be a little bit of wariness depending on what their background has been.
Awesome, thanks. Anyone else want to jump in? Okay, I'll also leave the floor open if you want to talk about it in the next section. So just the last question was, what strategies can be used to improve recruitment of patient partners in this group? So just in the interest of fairness, we'll start at the bottom. So group 7, 8, 9, if you want to jump in about some strategies that were discussed in your group, if they were.
Hi, my name's Julia. I'm also a first-year medical student. So we discussed that one of the things was to not assume that all patient partners have all the resources available to participate. So for example, maybe if they had a newborn child, they might need extra compensation just for childcare, or they might need a laptop to join in on these sessions. So we should check in with them individually to make sure that they have all the resources to participate, because a lot of times they want to, but just are unable to. And then some other things was a language barrier issue. So that was one challenge, especially for people coming from different countries, different backgrounds. And then one strategy was to maybe have student volunteers who are maybe also fluent in that language translate some of these study materials into various languages in order to promote diversity inclusivity.
Okay, perfect. I'll leave it open for one more note taker to jump in, and then we'll just wrap up. We only have a few minutes left.
I'll jump in. I took notes. I was a facilitator. One of the strategies that was shared in our group was to train people at community agencies who are already working with people who you're trying to recruit to this type of work, to train them in the process so that they can have a peer facilitation, and they actually get hired as part of the research grant to do that. I thought that was a really great idea.
Awesome. Thank you, Elizabeth. So Marion, can you just advance the slides? So thank you everyone for contributing to this discussion. It was really helpful to hear from everybody. There is an opportunity to continue the conversation. So we are doing an online survey. So this is the QR code if you just want to take a quick picture of it to grab it on your phone. It's the title of the survey is an inclusive approach to engaging people in health research before and after birth. And then we also have another workshop coming up at the UBC Health Dialogue session in May. There is another QR code for the early registration where we'll be talking about this again, where you can continue to provide feedback. And then I just want to thank everybody for their thoughts. And yep, Marian, can you just throw the surveys in the chat box for everybody? That would be great. Yeah, and I just want to thank everybody for your contributions, and I hope you had a good session. Enjoy the rest of the conference.
Thanks, Justine. I think we have 1 minute left. I believe Lauren has just a housekeeping slide to throw out for us. And we have a 5-minute break before our next session start at 11 o'clock. So feel free to jump back into the agenda and see what you want to check out next. This was a great discussion. Thank you so much, Marianne, and the whole massive but awesome group that was here.
Thank you. And I'll put the survey in the chat here.
Hi, Marianne. This is a link to the survey that you sent us to review, right? Okay, it's looking really good. I went through it this morning. Sorry, I went so late, but yeah, I thought it was great. Yeah.
And we welcome feedback and suggestions. It's a living survey. So if we've got things wrong or missed things, just let us know and they can always be updated.
Mm-hmm.
Thank you. And I'll just drop that. Sorry, I'm just getting the right link here.
Can we share details of the meeting on the 11th with everyone of May? I just saw someone had put in the chat they were interested in that meeting and they didn't have the opportunity to grab the details.
I'll put that link as well.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, awesome. Thanks so much, guys. This was great. It was too quick. I think that's my only piece of feedback. There just wasn't enough time. I think everyone could have talked for much longer.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah. Everything go well for you guys?
I was good.
Yep, it was great. Thank you.
It was perfect.
Okay, I'm gonna go get some coffee. See you guys later. Bye.
Okay, I'm just going to close this Zoom room if that's okay with you guys.
Okay.